Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're plunging into, well, a really pivotal moment in a story of revolution. Just imagine a massive upheaval, right?
Yeah.
And the news travels not by traditional means, but on pigeon wings and through a song. A catchy one, too.
Yeah, a very catchy one.
So what happens when this radical idea takes flight and inevitably meets some fierce resistance?
Yeah.
That's what we're digging into.
Exactly. Our mission here is to unpack all those fascinating details. You know, how the Animal Farm rebellion actually spread beyond its borders, the human reactions, which were pretty varied and often contradictory, and that crucial first battle, the one to defend their new society.
Right. We'll be looking at the surprising strategies, the clashing ideals, and those really dramatic moments that shaped things early on for Animal Farm.
Yeah, see what happens when an idea really catches on and people push back.
Okay, so the revolutions happen, the humans are out, but how did the animals get the word out? What was their initial PR strategy, and did it actually work?
Well, they didn't hang about. Snowball and Napoleon, they pretty much immediately set up this propaganda wing, like a rapid response team.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I sent out flights of pigeons, 35 of them, the source says. Their job, mingle with animals on nearby farms,
And just tell them what happened.
tell the story of the rebellion, yeah. And crucially, teach them the tune of Beasts of England. That was key.
And the material really stresses how incredibly fast that song's spread. It wasn't just, farm animals singing it, was it?
No, not at all. It was everywhere. Blackbirds whistling it, pigeons cooing it. It even got mixed up, apparently, with the noise from Smitty's and the sound of church bells.
Wow. What does that tell you? About the power of the message, maybe? Or, the mood out there already?
I think it's a brilliant illustration of how ideas can just catch fire.
Yeah.
It wasn't just clever messaging, though that helped. It really tapped into something deep, this pre-existing unhappiness among the animals.
So the ground was fertile, so to speak.
Exactly. The song's message, liberation, a better future, it resonated. It went viral, almost like a folk anthem for revolution. It suggests many animals were just waiting for something like this.
Okay, so while this ideology is spreading like wildfire, what's happening back with the humans? How's Mr. Jones doing after being kicked out? And what about his neighbors?
Mr. Jones. Well, he was apparently living a pretty pathetic life, spent most of his time in the Red Lion pub in Willingdon.
Just complaining.
Yeah, complaining bitterly,
Yeah.
about the monstrous injustice of it all, being chucked out by a pack of good-for-nothing animals. But the other farmers, while they might have sympathized outwardly,
They saw an opportunity.
totally opportunistic. Each one was secretly thinking, how can I turn Jones's bad luck to my advantage?
And there's this interesting dynamic between the two main neighbors, right? Pilkington of Foxwood and Frederick of Pinchfield. They sound quite different.
Oh, completely different. Foxwood, Pilkington's place, is described as large, neglected, old-fashioned, overgrown woodland, worn-out pastures, hedges a mess.
And Pilkington himself.
He's painted as this easygoing gentleman farmer. Spends most of his time fishing or hunting. Pretty laid back.
Okay, and Frederick.
Stark contrast. Pinchfield Farm was smaller and better kept. And Frederick himself, a tough, shrewd man, always involved in lawsuits, known for driving hard bargains.
So not exactly best buddies.
Not even close. They disliked each other intensely, which is key because it made it really hard for them to cooperate, even when it was obviously in their shared interest to crush the Animal Farm rebellion.
That's fascinating. So with these two quite different characters, how did they, and the humans generally, first react to Animal Farm? Did they take it seriously straight away?
Not a chance.
Yeah.
Initially, it was all scorn and disbelief. They tried to laugh it off. Animals running a farm. Ridiculous.
Just dismiss it.
Yeah, insisted the whole thing would collapse in a fortnight. And they made a point of still calling it the Manor Farm, refusing to use the new name, just trying to pretend it wasn't real.
But, the animals didn't starve. The farm didn't collapse. So the human narrative had to shift, right?
It did, and that's when Frederick and Pilkington really started coordinating. Well, sort of. They began spreading these lurid tales, terrible stories about the wickedness on Animal Farm.
Like what kind of stories?
Oh, just awful stuff. Cannibalism, animals torturing each other with red-hot horseshoes, even having their females in common. Total anarchy, basically.
And they presented this as
the natural result of going against the laws of nature, rebelling against the proper order of things.
But the irony, as the source points out, is that nobody really bought these wild stories.
Exactly. It says these tales were never fully believed. They were just too extreme, too over the top. It kind of backfired.
How so?
Well, by pushing these crazy scare stories, they lost credibility. And instead, these other rumors kept circulating, vague whispers of a wonderful farm where animals managed themselves.
So the propaganda failed.
In a way, yes. It created this space for the positive rumors to grow, feeding into what the text calls a wave of rebelliousness across the countryside.
And we see actual examples of that ripple effect.
Oh yeah, concrete examples. Bulls that were always calm suddenly turned savage. Sheep started breaking hedges to get at clover. Cows kicked over milk pails. Hunters refusing fences, throwing their riders. Little acts of defiance everywhere.
It sounds like trying to suppress the idea just made it stronger.
Absolutely. And at the center of it all was that song, Beasts of England. Humans hated it. They pretended it was silly. They flogged animals for singing it, but they couldn't stop it.
And secretly.
Secretly, the source says, they trembled when they heard it. They heard a prophecy of their future doom. It became more than a song. It was a powerful symbol.
Okay, let's shift gears then to the big climax of this early period, the Battle of the Cowshed. It's early October now. The animals knew something was coming.
Oh, they were definitely expecting an attack. And they were getting ready. This is where Snowball really steps up.
Because he'd been reading.
Exactly. He'd found this old book of Julius Caesar's campaigns in the farmhouse. And apparently he'd studied it closely. He was the one in charge of all the defensive operations, giving orders, getting everyone to their posts, very organized.
So this wasn't just like a random brawl. Snowball had a plan, a strategy.
Absolutely. A clever, multi-phase strategy.
Okay, walk us through it. What was the first move?
Phase one was interesting. It started with the 35 pigeons. They flew over the approaching men and, well, they muted upon them from midair.
They pooped on them.
Basically, yes. An aerial bombardment, you could say. And while the men were distracted by that, a flock of geese rushed out from behind the hedge and started pecking viciously at the calves of their legs.
Ouch. So just harassment tactics initially.
Precisely. Snowball called it a light skirmishing maneuver. The goal was just to create a little disorder, soften them up a bit, disrupt their advance.
Clever. Okay, so after the pigeons and geese created some chaos, what was phase two?
Right. Snowball then launched the second wave. He led it himself, along with Muriel, Benjamin the donkey, and all the sheep.
A direct charge.
Yeah, they rushed forward, prodding and butting the men from all sides. Even Benjamin was lashing out with his little hoofs. But, you know, the men had sticks, hobnailed boots. They were still holding their ground at this point.
Okay, so this wasn't the knockout blow. This is where the real tactics come in, right? The retreat.
Exactly. This was the smart part. On a signal from Snowball, a squeal, all the animals suddenly turned and fled back through the gateway into the main yard.
Making it look like they were defeated.
Precisely. The men yelled in triumph, thought they'd won, and rushed after them in disorder. But, as the source says, this was just what Snowball had intended. He lured them right into the trap.
Brilliant. A feigned retreat. So the men are now inside the yard. What was the ambush?
It was perfectly timed. As soon as the men were well inside, the animals who'd been hiding in the cowshed, the 3 horses, the 3 cows, and the rest of the pigs, burst out,
Cutting off their escape.
completely cutting off their retreat. Snowball then gave the signal for the main charge. He dashed straight for Jones.
And Jones had a gun.
He did. He fired it. The pellets grazed Snowball's back, left bloody streaks, and tragically killed a sheep.
Oh no, but Snowball kept going.
Didn't even pause. Flung his whole weight, 15 stone, it says right into Jones, sent him flying into a pile of dung and knocked the gun out of his hand.
Wow. And then, Boxer.
Then came Boxer, described as the most terrifying spectacle of all. Rearing up on his hind legs, striking out with his huge iron-shod hoofs like a stallion.
Devastating.
Absolutely. His very first blow caught a stable lad from Foxwood right on the skull, dropped him lifeless in the mud, or so it seemed at the time.
That must have been the turning point, the sight of that.
Total panic among the men after that. Several just dropped their sticks and tried to bolt, but they were surrounded.
And the animals pressed the attack.
All of them together, chasing the men round and round the yard. It turned into a rout. They were gored, kicked, bitten, trampled on. Even the cat got involved. Leapt off a roof onto a cowman's shoulders and dug her claws in.
Huh. Even the cat. So how long did it take?
The source says within 5 minutes of invading the yard, the men were in ignominious retreat, bolting for the main road with the geese hissing and pecking at their legs the whole way out. A total victory for the animals.
A decisive win, but the aftermath. It brings some really powerful moments, doesn't it? What was Boxer's reaction to the stable lad he thought he'd killed?
It's incredibly poignant. Boxer is pawing at the boy, totally distraught, saying, He is dead. I had no intention of doing that. I forgot that I was wearing iron shoes. He's genuinely horrified. Who will believe that I did not do this on purpose?
Oh, poor Boxer. And Snowball's reaction.
A stark contrast. Snowball, even with his back bleeding, is just like, no sentimentality, comrade. War is war. The only good human being is a dead one. Very cold, very pragmatic.
Wow, that's a huge difference in perspective.
Yeah.
Compassion versus
Right.
ruthlessness.
Exactly. It really highlights this fundamental tension, doesn't it? Between the idealists like Boxer, who hate violence even when necessary, and the pragmatists like Snowball, who see it purely as a tool.
And Boxer's response to Snowball.
He gets tearful, but reaffirms his stance. I have no wish to take life, not even human life. It really sticks with you. It kind of foreshadows future conflicts, maybe, these different views on how the revolution should be.
Definitely. Yeah, what about Molly? She went missing during the fight.
She did. There was a bit of alarm, but then they found her, hiding in her stall, head buried in the hay. She'd bolted as soon as the gun went off. Typical Molly, perhaps.
And the stable lad. The one Boxer hit.
Ah, well, turns out he was only stunned. He came around later and slipped away, so Boxer hadn't actually killed anyone, thankfully.
But that's a relief. So with the battle won, how did the animals mark the occasion? How do they celebrate and sort of cement this victory?
Well, first there was just wild excitement, everyone recounting their own heroic deeds. Then they had an impromptu ceremony.
Raising the flag, singing the song.
You got it. Ran the flag up the mast, sang Beasts of England several times over, but then they got more formal.
The funeral for the sheep.
Yes, a solemn funeral for the sheep who died. They planted a hawthorn bush on her grave, and Snowball gave a speech emphasizing that all animals must be ready to die for Animal Farm if needed, really reinforcing that idea of sacrifice.
And they even created medals.
They did. Military decorations, animal hero, first class, a brass medal made from old horse brasses found in the harness room,
Got that.
conferred immediately on Snowball and Boxer for their bravery, and then animal hero, second class, which was awarded posthumously to the dead sheep.
Wow. And they named the battle.
Yep, officially named the Battle of the Cowshed because that's where the ambush was sprung, and they decided to set up Mr. Jones's gun at the foot of the flagstaff.
Like artillery.
Exactly, to be fired twice a
On
year.
anniversaries. October 12th for the battle and Midsummer Day for the rebellion itself.
That's right. These rituals, they're so important for building that collective identity, right? For writing their own history.
Absolutely. Embedding the victory, the sacrifice, into the farm's new traditions.
Yeah, they weren't just celebrating, they were actively shaping their own narrative, defining what mattered.
So, wrapping up this deep dive, we've really seen the power of a message going viral, haven't we? And the human reactions from scoffing to fear-mongering, that kind of backfire.
Yeah, and then that incredible strategic victory in the Battle of the Cowshed. It wasn't just a fight, it was a clash of wills, of ideas.
It really was.
And it leaves you thinking, doesn't it, about how societies decide what's heroic and what price is worth it to defend their ideals.
That's a great point. Or maybe, looking ahead, how those clashing views on violence, Boxer's horror versus Snowball's cold logic, how things like that might shape what happens next for any movement, any new society.
Definitely food for thought. How those foundational moments and the way they're remembered echo down the line.
Indeed. Well, that's all we have time for today. Join us next time for another deep dive.